If you can imagine a beautiful sandbank and nothing else except beautiful crystal clear blue water, and then a dining room table that fits, 20 people in the center of the sandbank, and serve them a 4-course, 5-course degustation menu. It was magnificent. It was a great day, and it was a big launch of Bentley.
Hey guys, welcome once again. Today I've had the honor of chatting with Chef Ryan Squires, who is an accomplished Australian yacht chef with experience in the top restaurants in the world. Think of 3 Michelin star restaurants such as Per Se in New York, the French Laundry in California, Noma in Copenhagen, El Bulli in Spain. And this is the kind of restaurant where Ryan has worked and has carried out stages. He has also opened afterward 2 restaurants in Australia, one of them who received the award of 1 hat, and the second one that received the award of 2 hats. So this is perhaps the equivalent of a 2, or some may say a 3 Michelin star restaurant. So this is an incredible achievement for him. He also has been a reviewer for the San Pellegrino World Top 50 Awards. So again, another amazing accomplishment and a great honor for him, I believe. Ryan also shared with us the importance of great training and qualification for aspiring chefs. He himself aspired to one day design a galley on a new build super yacht. That's one of his dreams. And another one, a little bit more out there, is dreaming of becoming one day the mayor of the Gold Coast. So as you can expect, it's going to be a fun episode. So let's get into the episode. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. I want to say thank you, because you're in Australia, right? And it's quite early in the morning, so.
Not a problem. Yes, East Coast Australia.
All right, awesome.
Dead winter.
Ryan, before we start, I'm just gonna read a little bit what you've done. I think because I don't know if for the one that don't know you and your background, I think it's important to just do a quick summary of where you worked as a chef, because that defines who you are as a chef as well, and your motivation to work in all these high-end establishments. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've got is like 2004, 2006, French Laundry in California, as well as Per Se in New York, right?
Yes.
2008, El Bulli in Spain. So one of the most iconic restaurants in the world. So you've done 1 season there, right?
Yes.
After that, you move on to Noma, 2010, 2011. Again,
yes.
One of the most awarded and the most recognized restaurant in the world.
Wonderful.
And after that, so then you decide to go back to Australia. You open not 1, but 2 restaurants, one of which received 3 hats and the second one 2 hats. So
yes,
just as a reminder, what's the equivalent of 3 hats? Would that be a 3 Michelin star restaurant?
No, absolutely. The Michelin have obviously got a stigma attached to them in Europe. And as an outsider living in Australia, Michelin was very, one of I don't know. Would you call 3 rosettes the same as 3 Michelin? If you're in the UK,
That's a very good question. I don't know if you would. It's a good question. You got the rosette in the UK. You've got the Michelin star in the world. In France, you also have the Gold Mio, which is, they're giving you a rating out of 20 points. And usually when you have 3 stars, you get, 16, 17, 18 out of 20 points. And so a very high rating. But the hat system is basically Australia's way of rewarding restaurants.
Exactly. Listen, the 3 hat, apart from my own back in the day, the 3 hats in Australia are phenomenal restaurants. Phenomenal. If I was to compare them against, the French Laundry and the European 3-hat restaurants, absolutely. And every country has just put their own sort of stamp on the high standards or so yeah, uh, very good restaurants, very good restaurants.
Yeah. So what made you leave Australia to go to the French Laundry, apart from the fact that this is one of the most, again, rewarded restaurant in California?
Um, my mother's Italian background, and food was a huge thing growing up. Uh, um, not as in going out a lot, but like just making use of what we had. Every meal was, you know, uh, it wasn't out of a packet, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, and seeing pasta drying on strings throughout the kitchen as a young kid, to the grandparents picking the vegetables during the morning, and then having them at night and whatnot. Um, so that's how I got into the industry, and did made sure that I was working for particular types as a young chef, I guess. Uh, I wasn't terribly keen to become a chef, to be honest, when I was young, at the ages of 18, 17. But I guess you really didn't know back in the day what you really wanted to do.
It's very
I knew I
early.
had
How can you, define the rest of your career, professional career at teenage age? Like
exactly
it's
at that
very, very
age.
difficult. Yeah.
I wasn't ashamed of doing it. My father was a successful lawyer, and I sort of looked up to that. I just didn't have. I was too itchy to have an office job, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
too restless. Uh, I,
Yeah,
I,
sitting on the
I, I,
chair was not for you.
no, exactly. I knew I was going to be hands on. I really wanted to do carpentry. I thoroughly enjoy woodworking. But anyway, I guess I thought, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm just going to work for particular types.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, started in Sydney and then went to London at Mosselmans and Switzerland. I didn't mention that in the on my CVs because I guess a lot of people don't know about the old school Anton Mosselman and in Belgrave Square in London, and he had another restaurant in Alton in Switzerland uh, that I went to as well. Um, and anyway, while I was in London, this German chef sent me this menu of the French Laundry in, I believe it was 2001.
Hmm.
And I went, wow, okay. I want that to be my next destination. And it took 2 years to, get visas organized. Uh, um, I didn't pester him. I just sent one CV. I think Mosselman sort of caught their eye. At the time, Anton Mosselman was quite a well-known restaurant.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's how I got a phone call at 2 in the morning saying, congratulations, you've been accepted at the French Laundry. We're organising your visa currently. It's going to take 6 months, but we look forward to seeing you. 2 weeks prior to leaving Australia, they said, change your plan. We're going to send you to New York to open up per se. And I
Yeah.
went, and the whole team from California basically went to New York
Wow.
uh, and, and opened up per se. Um, at the time, the most expensive restaurant in history, I believe, uh, to open. Phenomenal, beautiful, fantastic experience. Um, Unfortunately, we had it was a brand new building at Columbus Circle there in New York, called the Time Warner Building, and obviously being a couple of years, well, short distance after 9/11, uh, uh, everything was a little bit on edge, I guess, and we had this fire alarm uh, uh, due to an actual fire. It wasn't a false alarm in per se. Um, Smoke started billowing out of the walls, and yeah, it was a bit of a dramatic experience. And although the restaurant didn't get fired physical fire damage. The smoke unfortunately permeated, the magnificent millions and millions.
Yeah, so you were saying
Um,
you had a fire alarm in the kitchen, or was it in
yeah,
out the building?
exactly. Yeah, I can't actually recall how it actually happened. But it wasn't a pan or
Yeah,
a, a faulty fridge or something. It was mechanical within the building.
yeah.
Um, and the smoke just permeated the Italian carpet, the Italian uh, fabric, and chairs and tables and everything. So the whole thing basically had to get
Redone.
uh, redone. Yeah. So it was, yeah. And then it just closed down for a good 3, 4 months and then reopened. So yeah, very unfortunate events. But
Yeah. So after that,
at
you
that
decide,
stage,
uh,
went back to California to the French Laundry.
yeah, to the French Laundry. Okay.
Yeah.
How was it to work for Thomas Keller?
Magnificent experience. Um, yeah, I blame him for my OCD. I blame him for, I guess, the chasing perfection all the time. Yeah, he's a magnificent company to work for, um, and some good traits there, Chris. Some really good
Yeah.
traits
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I
He seems
actually
like a
cherish.
genuine, yeah. He seems like a genuine, nice human being, from all the
Oh,
interviews and all
100%.
the videos. So I guess what we see of him during interviews is this is who he is. He's not just putting a face for the camera and then turning around and just shouting at people like some people can do.
Oh no, absolutely. He does shout. Well, he did.
Yeah.
Well, not shout. I guess firm words. Firm words is a good one. Not shout.
Yeah. So after French Laundry, fair say, you move on to El Bulli. How was that?
Uh,
How did you get there? How did you manage to get in there?
yes. Um. So our bully, yeah. So I'm just trying to think. So came back from the French Laundry, did a few things in Australia. Um, obviously, and worked at a few establishments there, and tried to tick off some boxes in the award system and whatnot. Um, Again, so the same sort of situation where these restaurants look at your past experiences and ideally want those people that have experienced somewhat of their own
Yeah.
mirroring or their own caliber. So, the Anton Mossman to the French Laundry Group, and then French Laundry Group sort of shone a light with the Albuli Group, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and very fortunate. There's pretty much only about 10 or so paid full-time workers, I guess, in the kitchen,
Yeah.
maybe a bit more. And then they have obviously about, oh, couldn't tell, I can't remember, about 30, 20, maybe 25 individuals that come in for the season as a
Wow.
stage. Um, and those are, again, phenomenal experience. Um, Unfortunately, arrived with the shirt on my back. My bag was lost or stolen uh, during transit, and that was a very very down period for me. I had basically everything that I had achieved. Don't forget, this is the time prior to iPhones and smartphones.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and a very digital age. And so everything was in moleskin books and diaries and, a lot of memories and a lot of beginnings in hard copy sort of format. And all of that just went within, minutes.
Yeah.
Uh, Very, very sad period for me because I had obviously gained a lot of knowledge and experiences, and it was all written down. So yeah, lost all of that and
So
arrived with the
you're
shirt on
talking
my back.
recipe books and notes that you've taken, and
Exactly.
old
Yeah.
menus and whatever
Journals
document
and
you got from.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
photos and whatnot, beautiful old knives, my first set of knives is such an important every chef would have their first knife set somewhere
Yeah.
or half of it. Whether they don't use it or not, they still got it.
Yeah.
Those sort of things, sentimental.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
So
yeah, lost that and our bully. Yeah, these different groups along the way do orchestrate different ways to provision or to run a restaurant. And so learning these types of experiences really, uh, uh, gave me an insight of how things can and can't be done, or what
yeah.
works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. I understand. Yeah. Of course, this restaurant, they just go through so much food and so much stuff, like you said, and so much. I suppose the daily job lists are crazy in a place like this. Because I have myself
Mm,
working in a 3-star that was not
yes,
to that uh,
exactly.
uh, amount of people in the kitchen. I think we were, 20, which is already a big team. But when you start to have 25 interns or stagiaires, as we call them, plus 10 permanent, plus the head chef, plus this is a very big organization. So I'm sure you've learned a lot of technique there and tricks.
Absolutely. And the stars, yes, they can be a hindrance or they can be burden or a positive. So you're dealing with a big mixed bag of people that you're trying to, direct and mentor and,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can see the headache and heartache. But yeah, just a bully really opened my eyes to. I personally wasn't into molecular gastronomy at the time at all, and it was a
Yeah.
big thing back then. But I just wanted to tick our bully off the box, off the CV box. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you did. You did that.
yeah, so I just wanted to. I had interest in molecular gastronomy. A lot
Yeah.
of the dishes no, didn't really like.
Yeah.
I remember I remember very clearly, this one particular dish, um, had a cube of watermelon, raw watermelon, fresh watermelon, and about, oh, 8, 9, 10 different types of seaweed from around the world. Uh, and then with this foam of, basically Mediterranean water, right? Mediterranean seawater.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in that section that particular week, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna taste this. Um, and I did. I had every seaweed and the watermelon and the foam. I can't. There must have been something else on it, but it was just one of those typical Albuli style plating plates. It destroyed me. The next 2 weeks, I was horizontal. I went to the hospital for 3 nights. Uh, uh, this particular dish, which I'm sort of putting the blame on, just made me incredibly ill.
How
Incredibly ill.
come? How come?
It could have been anything really. It
Yeah.
could have been anything, but I just reflecting back at the time and being so violently ill. uh, Um, I just put it down to this particular dish. I'm a really simple eater.
Yeah.
um, bread and butter
Yeah.
sort of a guy, especially when working,
Yeah.
those sort of hours. And yeah, and I'm not a huge drinker at all. Well,
Yeah.
I don't drink at all, really. I mean, I do enjoy a good beer here and there, but so there was just nothing else
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that was a bad experience.
Yeah. And after all these molecular techniques and foams and gels and anything possible, any kind of texture, you went into Noma in Copenhagen.
Yes, this is a
So
stage. Did a stage
yeah.
there for about uh, oh, 4 months, I think it was 5 months. Funny, really funny this because Noma wasn't really heard of, and I actually applied there in, oh, I believe it was just after the French Laundry. because I wanted to get back to Europe, but I wanted to experience not your typical Spain or
Yeah.
England, French Europe. I wanted to go further north, and I'd never been to Denmark.
Yeah.
And I actually got a paid position there. I can't remember what year, but I remember going looking at the San Pellegrino list. It must have been 2005, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. And Noma was 30 something or 40 something, and got accepted, but it was just all visa issues, and didn't actually go. Fast forward, 10 years, had the opportunity to go, so I went as a stage. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Didn't know
Yeah.
Rene had actually done a lot of years with Thomas Keller
Yeah.
himself.
He was one of his sous chef, right?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but yeah,
I think
something.
there was, yeah, he
Right.
did a few years in French Laundry as well. Yeah. So after Noma, you decide to go back home?
Yeah, Noma was to prepare me for what I had basically signed off on. That was to open two restaurants in Brisbane,
Okay.
called
Signed off
S.
as in why you found some financial partners?
Premises. Yeah, exactly. Knew it was happening. So okay, I need to go and just get this out of my system with Noma first.
Yeah.
Um,
So you didn't decide to open one restaurant, you opened two restaurants at the same time.
yeah, the space allowed for it. It was a very unique office space that was on a ground level with a miranda and sort of a alcove onto the river. It was magnificent, old building. And at the believe it or not, the name of the restaurant came from this plaque at the front of the building on the street, and it was made by Esk, someone, and I think it was my architect that suggested. We didn't have a name for the restaurant,
Yeah.
and ESQ, Esk, short for Esquire. And so we just called the cheap eatery, fun eatery, all day eatery Esk, and then the fine dining side Esquire. And it
Yeah.
just so happened to play with my last name. So
No, it was a good name.
that's
It was a good name.
yeah, that's where that came from.
So how long did you run the restaurant for?
Oh, it was just under 10 years. Tough. It was great,
10
but tough.
years. Long time,
Yeah,
10 years.
just under. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess, you know, again, Australia is a difficult place to do business in the restaurant world. I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of people realize Australia is very difficult. With such high standards of living in Australia, we've got to pay certain amount for a certain service through your employees. So, um,
You mean social security contributions and all the
oh,
things you pay for your
exactly.
staff?
And the minimum wage is not what you think it is here in Australia. And it's over the years, it's just gotten worse and worse. So the margins of a restaurant earnings are getting smaller and smaller. Um,
What kind of restaurant was it? How many seats for Esquire? How many
so
seats for?
Esk was about 35, 40. Obviously, you could turn that over quickly because it was that
Yes.
sort of eatery. And then Esquire, setting up once, we could have done, I think, 65.
Yeah.
But we couldn't really, you could turn it over, a small percentage of it for the early, because Esquire was 100% degustation and sort of prefix sort of meals for lunchtime. And then Esk was, you know, quick and easy sort of roasted proteins and vegetables over, hardwood. Yeah, no, it was good. It was the thing that killed me there was the exorbitant rental agreement, I guess. We were paying $30,000 a month in rent alone.
Yeah. You feel like
Um,
that was a bad decision on your side?
very, very bad decision. Uh, it obviously lasted for, the 8, 9 years. Um,
But that means that you kind of sacrifice most of your profit toward the rent that you
100,
really
100%,
didn't
100%,
have to
100%.
to take on if you had chosen another local, another place.
Mm, exactly. Listen, at the time, this is all pre-COVID, obviously. Um, we're in the center of the city. We had one of the most magnificent views of the city and the bridge. It was an ideal. You couldn't beat the location. You couldn't beat the
Yeah,
location. I guess whether it had been an office instead of a restaurant, would have the rent been as high or low? I'm not sure. You know, and yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, lessons learned, and I'm a better person for it. Good experience.
yeah. How did you decide to shut both restaurants?
It
Was
it,
it a
it
long,
was
long decision?
no, no, not at all, not at all. I had a lot of fire from the faulty promises from, I guess, the landlord. Uh, if you're paying $30,000 a month, I want impeccable
Yeah,
premises. Water leaks, air conditioning, all these sort of faulty, homeless people even
yeah,
around the restaurant, uh, to the outside maintenance from the grass to the garden to the window washing. These for 30,000 a month. These need to be
yeah,
kept to an impeccable standard, and they weren't. And so uh, we had a lot of firepower. Luckily, I had a very fortunate circumstance with my father being a lawyer,
yeah,
and we got out of the lease very easily.
yeah,
And I don't think we paid for the last 3 or 4 months and walked away not owing anything really.
yeah.
Um,
But I feel like you've already paid for it anyway, over the
yeah,
past few years.
tenfold exactly.
Yeah. So after that experience, Ryan, what do you do? Do you because you worked on boats? Is that
Yeah,
just
so
after or
no, not at all. I at this stage I very much wanted to give up cooking.
yeah? Do what?
Um, I hadn't figured that out. I had not
Yeah,
figured that out. I, During the Esk and Esquire days, I had bought a little Volkswagen van to do produce runs. I never got my produce delivered, nor the wines. I wanted to go physically to the wine supplier. I always bought everything in cash. I had no bills, and same with the fruit and veg, seafood and meats. Uh,
yeah,
uh, I went direct to either farmers or farmers distributors, and bought directly off them instead of going through another to save money. Not only just to save money, but to choose and get exactly what I
yeah,
wanted physically
yeah,
in my hand. And it's the same with the yachts. And so yeah, after Esquire, yeah, I didn't know. I had 2 years off. I was mentally and physically worried about everything.
yeah,
It the industry didn't, I guess, give me back in a monetary aspect, and it burnt me
yeah,
physically as well. So I was I was despising the industry after putting so much effort and emphasis into it.
yeah,
It hadn't given me back what I
yeah,
wanted. But eventually got back into it and took a position as the executive chef on a beautiful five-star, very, very, very isolated island way up in the north of Australia, about 500 nautical miles offshore, tiny little island. It's
uh-huh,
basically a research center. It's called Lizard Island.
uh-huh.
Um, Phenomenal, phenomenal place.
What kind of
Stunning.
food was it? Was it a resort? Was it
Yeah, yeah. It's an all-inclusive resort. You had 30 individual cabins scattered throughout the cliff and the rainforest, directly onto the Great Barrier Reef. You couldn't get a more picturesque. Highly recommended to stay there if you could afford it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, stunning. And that's the food again. I had sort of the mental cobwebs were still going through me regarding Esk and Esquire. I was a little bit lost in that position, to be honest. after 2 years off and trying to get back into trying to find the passion for the industry again.
Yeah.
Um, it was a difficult period. A difficult period. Fortunately, then COVID hit.
Fortunately, I don't hear that often.
No, no, I loved COVID. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Everything and everyone just chilled the fuck out. Am I allowed to swear
Yeah.
here? I'm not sure. Like
Yeah.
there was no
Why not? I mean, why not?
there was no traffic on the roads. There was no
Yeah.
house parties. There was everyone was just a little bit homebound and a bit grounded. And that's me to a T. I love that period. I'm not. I feel very sorry for the people who are very much affected. Uh, but this is my own personal take on it. I thoroughly
Yeah. Yeah.
enjoyed
Yeah.
the period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is
Um,
your opinion and your view on it,
yeah,
and this is what you live. So
and that and I refuse to go on any government handout, or some sort of Centrelink. So I went, you know what? I'm going to, for this period where the unknown, or I don't know how long COVID is going to go for, I'm going to go and find a casual position in something that I've always wanted to do, and that was carpentry.
okay.
And so
All right.
I looked up, fortunately had a friend who was a carpenter, professional carpenter, built beautiful homes and went along with him and did, a year or so, 18 months with a bunch of fantastic builders, and learned about nails and dovetail joints and hardwood and how to install a window, you know?
No,
As a
I
yeah,
think this is a very, very different set of skills you need, and the attention is a lot more focused on what you're doing, and it's probably a lot more quiet in your environment when you're building all these um, furnitures and all this stuff. Because when you
yeah,
work in a
absolutely.
kitchen, everything runs at 300 kilometers an hour, and you have to just
Exactly.
control everything, and it's day and night. I think from the chaos it can be a good.
100%. There's no deadlines, there's no, um, the end of the food world is such a unique industry, isn't it?
And
With
it's very demanding. Let's not forget it's very demanding. That's what
what's
you said.
required from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, and it's got the itchy feet. I had the again, fortunately, came across someone who was um, after a chef for a yacht, and I just went, yes, perfect. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm ready now. I'm going to go into this yachting world um, as a cruise chef. I do. I nothing. Everyone had told me how different the industry is on yachts.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this is great. I'm at a certain age. I've got all this experience behind me. I'm going to come in here and give this crew food a go. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I did. Unfortunately, my head chef wasn't the best of, I guess, mentors, or I guess the best of personalities.
Yeah.
Um, Complete fucking idiot, to be honest. Uh, but just one of those washed up. I mean, and this is the tricky thing. But because Chris, I'm only 5-6 years into this yachting world
Yeah.
industry, where yourself and people that I've come across have been, you know, 10, 20, 30, oh, not 30 years. I think 20 years is the most I've
Yeah.
heard someone being, in vast amount of yachts. But this guy basically finished school, did his apprenticeship. He was an Australian, um, and went straight into the yachting world, which, looking at it now, is one of the biggest mistakes I think a chef could do.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's one thing to cook and to cook in a restaurant. Cooking on the yacht, there's a lot that you don't know until someone tells you, or until you found out. And sometimes when you found out, it's too late. So I think it was a smart move for you to start as a cruise chef. Um, but
Absolutely,
but yeah, you
absolutely.
don't choose a head chef. So then if the guy is not hasn't learned himself all the techniques and all the ways to deal with crew food, guest food, provisioning, waste, everything that you do on the boat, which is so different to a restaurant business.
Just the standards. His standards were just shocking. I just couldn't believe it. Um, it was a huge eye opener for me. Um, and I thought, oh wow, this is actually I could actually have a chance in this industry. That's what I
Yeah.
said to myself, you know. But me being me, I sort of tried to implement what I had learned land based and
Yeah.
structure on the yacht. You know, it does and doesn't work, and still learning as we speak.
Yeah. So this boat was in Australia, right? Was he
Yes.
cruising anywhere specific, or was he just?
No, yeah, so, uh, I literally hopped on the yacht, Mischief. It was a fantastic yacht. It's part of the Ahoy Club here in Australia. I literally hopped on it 200 meters that way,
Yeah.
um, and went south to Sydney for about, 2-day journey or so what, and then, yeah, started there, and so then the boat ended up in Sydney Harbour, and spent 3 years with the company, um, and we went, all the way up to Lizard Island, as I was explaining
Yeah.
to you, all the way down to Tasmania, uh, um, magnificent experience, and I couldn't have asked for a better company to work for, in the initial introduction to the yachting world. They then had multiple yachts within their fleet and built quite a considerable fleet in Sydney with
Yeah.
Ahoy Club.
Yeah.
From 40 to 35 meters, and then beautiful
So did you
Pardo
work on
tenders.
different vessels within the fleet?
Yeah, exactly. After 6 months, and then became the executive chef of I guess, of Ahoy Club Australia.
Oh,
Um,
incredible.
yeah, again, and it was I was literally treating it like a multi-establishment restaurant group, um, but just with a few different aspects that you got to
Yeah.
consider. And thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a fantastic experience.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's a good introduction to yachting. Um, Ryan, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned being a reviewer for the San Pellegrino top 50 best restaurant
Yes,
in the world. How
yes.
did that happen? How did it happen?
Um,
Did they just contact you? Did
no, so one of the major reviewers here through the Gourmet Traveller magazine, food sort of a platform here in Australia called Gourmet Traveller. Um, their chief editor, I guess, reached out to me during the Esquire first 2 or 3 years of Esquire, and asked me if I'd be interested in contributing to the review of the San Pellegrino Restaurant Awards. And I, yeah, jumped out of my seat. Yeah, that was a magnificent experience. Um, and we did that for 2 or 3 years. Obviously, had to pay for it personally, so it was quite an expensive
so you had to pay for
sort of.
your own meals and
Oh
everything?
yes, yeah, meals and flights and whatnot. Uh,
So what do you get
but
from
it
it?
was personal development. Good question, Chris. What do I get from it? A mandatory
It
trip away to a restaurant that I wouldn't normally book
okay.
myself into, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
just
I guess
the experience of it.
maybe it
I
gave
didn't.
you a voice as a chef, as an
Yeah.
industry leader, because your
Oh, but
opinion obviously
yeah, but during the reviewers are very oh, what's the word?
confidential.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I got no exposure from it, from
yeah,
a personal ego thing or anything like that.
yeah,
It was just the experience of it. And I took a partner with me on one of the trips.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, yeah, it was good.
yeah. Would you do it again?
100%.
Yeah. So was this
100%.
only in Australia, I suppose?
So my region was obviously Australasia, and I had to pick 4 restaurants within Australasia. So Australia, a little bit of Singapore, that Asia
Yeah.
area just above Australia. And then I had to pick 3 restaurants on the broader region.
How did you pick
So
the restaurants?
I obviously just tried to, because I was pretty limited to how much I could spend. I just basically chose restaurants that were already in the know or already within that list, and then had the opportunity to do a lot of research of other establishments that had may not been recognized. So
Yeah.
I think it was very important to keep the people that a lot of people already knew about, and then try to discover something a little bit left field or an up and coming chef that was trying to ruffle feathers in some sort of manner. And so
Yeah.
I while visiting these major establishments, I tried to, zip off here or zip off there to test smaller unknown restaurants. So yeah, it was good. It was a good experience.
And how did you become an ambassador for Audi?
Uh, I it was this is
Because that's got
Esquire. This
nothing to do with restaurant. I mean,
No, this is Esquire. Um, it was a pretty big dealer here in Australia, in Brisbane, and I, as a chef, was trying to rub shoulders with fantastic, good worldwide brands in Australia. Well, in the world, but that were established in Brisbane. From Gucci to Chanel, Audi. Um,
why? Why did you do that? Just for the
because
restaurant or for the?
exactly. I wanted to socialize Esquire to these brands, and it worked in some capacity. We launched the Bentley four-wheel drive here in one of the restaurants. Uh, that's another story. That was a great story. We had to anyway. We had to go to this
Feel
little.
free. We have time.
We had to go to this sandbank in the middle of this bay off Queensland in Moreton, and we set up basically the car in the background on the sandbank. So we had to ship the new Bentley four-wheel drive on a ferry or on a dumb barge, they call it. Drive it onto the sandbank. If you can imagine a beautiful sandbank and nothing else except beautiful crystal clear blue water, and then a dining room table, that fits, 20 people in the center of the sandbank, and serve them a 4-course, 5-course degustation menu. It was magnificent. It
Wow.
was a great day, and it was a big launch of Bentley. So yeah, anyway, long story cut short, you know, eh, Paspali Pearls, a very famous pearl maker here in Australia, very world renowned pearl maker. And so these sort of establishments came to us for their exclusive events. I knew they had multi-million dollar clients, and I thought, you know what? Let's entertain them at Esquire. And that's
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to rub shoulders with these people. And eventually we're doing 400 cocktail events for Chanel here on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane or Gucci or and that's how these are great money makers for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Um, and then Audi. I went into Audi. No, I didn't go into. I spoke to the guy at Audi, and they did an event at our restaurant every year, and it's called Riverfire. It's basically flames and fireworks and jets, and it's just a beautiful light display on the river. And because we had that big courtyard in front of the restaurant, they hauled in Audis and invited 300 of their biggest clients. And we put on this magnificent evening, late afternoon evening fire display. It was fantastic. And after 2 or 3 years of this, I made an establishment with them and became this sort of ambassador for
Yeah.
our, and they basically, I started driving Audis and I still got the car actually. Yeah. Um,
That was my next question. Are you driving Audi now?
yes, I do. I do drive an Audi. It might be 6 years old now, but it's a beautiful. And I'm not a car person. I'm not a
Yeah.
car person. I don't really care for it. Like I said, I've got a Volkswagen Caddy van, which I drive more these days than the actual.
Yeah.
Uh, I couldn't go past the A5. I couldn't go past the A5 uh, two door, which I love. When I when I
Ryan.
when I need to pick my girlfriend up, I'd take that girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you gotta make sure you take a good car.
She hates a caddy.
I understand. I understand. It might be practical, but it might not be what you wanna be picked up in.
No, exactly.
Ryan, you're working now on what is it? Film through QLD.
Yes. Yeah,
What is
so
that?
I've had this. So, again, this is something that's been around for, 20, 25 years. Being a chef, obviously, early on in my career, I had a very good old friend of mine, whose mother owned a production group. And her, I guess, business allowed me to do these offshoots. So every time, you need to film a commercial or a short film or a long form TV series, uh, they would go to unique remote locations or somewhere that requires catering for all this film crew
Yeah.
from, and it tend to be 20, 30, 40 people. And they always have a catering van on site, um, breakfast, lunch, and afternoon tea sort of a thing. And that's how I did it. So about 30 years ago, I was, doing random ones here and there when she called me and asked me to do it. And I thought, wow, there's something actually in this. Um, and at the time, I guess the movie film world wasn't, but it's huge. It wasn't big back then, but it's huge here now in Southeast Queensland. We have big studios here on the Gold Coast. Um, but when all that was happening, I was, overseas doing my thing. And so, about 10, 12 years ago, I just said, you know what, I'll just have this offshoot sort of thing in the background. If anyone calls me and I'm available, I'll definitely do it. And it
Yeah.
earns me more money than the yachts. It really does. Um, but now that I wasn't 100% committed to it, Film Foods Queensland, I'm a small fish within a big pond in that
Yeah.
industry now. But it's all about the connection. So I have
Yeah.
a few clients that will call me, and I like the smaller ones. I like the smaller 2, 3 day shoots, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. Um, yeah, and it makes a lot of money. It's a really good
Yeah.
business, but it's just very few and far between. And if I'm on the yachts and someone calls me, I'm unavailable,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
disappointing, which is always the case. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to
I
make a
try
choice, I suppose. I
exactly,
suppose you can't have too many pots on a fire, even though you're a chef.
e- e- exactly. But yeah, I keep it in the background. And I would like to really make something of it because it is a magnificent, self-structured, self-employed, self-regulate sort of a food business. Like I
Yeah.
said, for the last 10 years, I've been thinking, okay, what is it? What is it in food? What am I going to do now? I'm not going to do restaurants. They don't make money. They're too stressful. I've done that. Uh, there must be another part of the food industry that you can make money off. And I guess this is your next question: is where, what is life like after the yacht world?
Yeah. What is it?
Well, I don't think I'm finished in the yacht world yet. No, I'm
But sorry to interrupt, but it's very important to plan your exit when you work on yachts because life is good
100%.
and it's tax free for most people, not for everyone. I mean, please check with your tax advisor because
Yes,
it's not what everyone says. There's you're gonna have
exactly.
to pay something at some point unless you live in a lovely country that has no taxes for seafarers. But yeah, you have to prepare your exit as a once you're in yachting, because of course you don't pay rent, you don't pay for your shampoo, everything is paid for, and you go away. You don't have a house, you don't have an apartment, but what you do after is as important as what you do when you're on a boat. So you're still on the boat now, but what do you think you do after?
Well, I'll correct you there. I'm actually not on a boat at the moment. I'm seeking. So if anyone's out there, uh, I'm keen to find my forever boat. I've at least another 5, 10 years in me, five,
Yeah,
8 years in me, and yeah, what is that? Listen, and I think about it. Even if I was based on land as a chef, I think you still come to an age. What is that age? Like you know, in the depths of the dungeon of old hotels, I guarantee you'll find 50, 60, 65+ year old chefs still working. Um, Personally, I don't think I could do that. Personally, I've got too many interests to be doing
yeah,
that at age. So it's the same as land-based. Um,
yeah.
I'm trying to set myself up, Chris. I'd like to keep the film foods, Queensland
Yeah.
still going. I would like to do 2, 3 days a week building and designing beautiful furniture if I'm skilled enough and capable enough to do that.
Because that
Um,
has become your passion, right? Your hobby to build furniture.
oh yes, yeah, I love furniture. Love furniture. I do not know why, but just a good, beautiful chair really excites me. Um, and the end result, trying to build that chair. Uh, Um,
I
um,
think it's a more
I'm a bit,
permanent challenge, it's a more permanent craft. Because when you build food and when you create food, like you say, you've learned to become slightly OCD or obsessed with perfection from Thomas Keller. But now
yes,
what you do when you're building chairs and tables and furniture, it's the same focus, it's the same words,
hundred
same
percent, hundred
concentration.
percent,
But once you've done it, it's there. It doesn't get
absolutely.
old. It doesn't get, you know, it doesn't change. So once you've done, you can say like, I have finished this. I can move on to something else. And this is not eternal, but it's definitely a longer reward from your hard work than a dish that lasts, as long as it's eaten and then it's gone.
Gone, exactly. No, absolutely. Um, I'm a bit of a cheater at the moment with my building, furniture building. I pin um, Pinterest a lot of photos or images and mimic that piece of furniture. I'm not skilled enough or capable enough to, I guess, sketch and
But I mean, that's
measure.
how you start. No, I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with
exactly.
copying
No,
the
well,
great.
no, I actually very much despise that in the restaurant world.
Yeah.
One of your questions before this podcast was, who are you um, influenced by? Um, and like I said in the questionnaire before, I don't, I try not to be influenced by anyone. Inspired 100%. Uh,
Yeah.
but if you start just copying what other people are doing within the food world, you aren't actually doing your job as a chef, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think it's easy?
100%.
Do you think it's easy to copy?
Oh, incredibly. The internet the resources at your fingertips these days to find out how they did that thing on that thing or this
Yeah.
or the sauce or you know,
Because if you work in a
yeah,
restaurant, think about this. If you work in a restaurant, your main focus, unless you're doing tasting menu every day different dishes, unless you're the head chef, of course. But if you're anyone below the head chef, from the sous chef to the commis to the stagiaire, your main focus is to copy and repeat dishes all day long, always
exactly,
long.
exactly. Now, and that's probably why that person is in a as a sous chef or a chef de partie
Yeah.
or a demi chef in their career. And so once you step out of that realm and you're progressing within your career, that's when I guess that repetition of those dishes that you did for so long they're for, I guess, reference only. Like, there's a difference between, I guess, totally mimicking a dish or taking particular techniques from a particular
Yes.
dish, and that's vital. That just goes on for years and decades and centuries. That's been going on for, so it's very important to distinguish the difference, I guess, of those sort of. There's a fine line there, but for me, like I was saying at the beginning, the art in the background here is my brother's, and he's an artist, and I think it's just important to be original. I would rather fail than copy someone. You sorry, yeah, I would rather fail, uh, yeah, than to copy someone and succeed.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't like fakes. I don't like fakes. I don't like the fraudulent types to getting somewhere by someone else's hard work. I don't think that.
But there's also hard work behind copying something to achieve to make sure it's identical. Like in the woodworking business
Yeah,
or
but
what
if
you're
that's
doing.
yeah, absolutely. But if that's your job and you're being paid to do that, well, then that's you're in the clear there. 100.
Yeah.
percent It's just that if you left that restaurant as a sous chef and went and opened up your own restaurant as a head chef and just went, yeah, let's do that dish from that day. Well, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're getting 2, 3 hats because of that particular dish. No, that doesn't gel with me. That doesn't gel with
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because
This is a bit of a cheating then. It's just a
yeah. So
copycat.
as a chef, at the end of the day, my I guess the point it's incredibly important and self-disciplinary to make sure that you are still engaged with your own personal creativity
Yeah.
and moving forward. I think in a lot of work environments or a lot of industries, you can get very complacent.
Yeah.
What's the point? What's the point of doing it if you're just going to
Yeah.
mundanely go through it in life? I mean, fair enough. If you want to do that, that's your decision. Absolutely. But for me, it's
So Ryan, what do you think
progressive.
about classical dishes and classic cuisine? Let's say classic French dishes. How do you see it?
Yeah.
Because somehow
Beautiful.
we're copying recipes that have been done for centuries, perhaps.
100%, 100%. I don't think though that I guess, been to a restaurant and ordered a lasagna and it's exactly how it should be from Escoffier's book
Yeah. I
you
don't know if the
know.
lasagna is in the book, by the way. I
No,
don't know if
no, no.
lasagna is in the
Escoffier,
Escoffier
bad,
book. I
bad.
need to check.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't. It definitely isn't. But you can see my point.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So Ryan, so you do a lot of things. You're always on the move. You like to stay busy. Apart from COVID, during COVID, which was a good time to reset maybe and to just look at what you can do different. How do you take care of yourself? Because you mentioned your mental health at the time when you had the restaurant and how difficult it was to cope with it. In simple word.
Yeah. Mate, I'm no good at it, but I love surfing. I love surfing. I love fishing. Um, you've got a lot of interests outside of work, and you just pursue them. I remember this is strange. This is a weird period, but basically, and I remember it was Easter, and it was just coming into winter, and I jumped in the van and I basically just drove west, so towards the middle of Australia, a little bit north, um, in the van for about 3 weeks, and I was destined for this old gold mining town. I don't know why. but I just wanted to get in the country and just I guess experience a different environment. Uh, um, and I went out there and I basically just camped in the van and walked around, the beautiful rainforest, or not rainforest, bushland with waterfalls and whatnot, and completely switched off, and exercised. Came back,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and it was just a weird little experience. I would not normally do that. I hate walking. I hate exercising, uh, but it was important to I guess be alone and do that. But these days, yeah, it's I think waking up incredibly early is very healthy,
Yeah.
and I try and make sure I do that each day.
Yeah. What's your plan, Ryan, for when you become the mayor of the Gold Coast? Seems to be one of your goals.
Wow, mate, I'm very fond of the Gold Coast. A lot of Australians despise the Gold Coast. It's trashy, it's loud, it's bright, and they couldn't be far from the truth. It is. Born and bred here. I j- I have a sentimental value to it within myself. I love the place, um, and it's turned to trash. It's
Yeah.
Australians come here and treat it like Bali. Not all of them, not all of them. But it's a beautiful beach paradise, and it doesn't have to be as trashy as it is.
What do you mean by
Um,
trashy? What happened there? What?
I guess a lot of countries have these sort of places. Like Miami would be, I guess, one of them. America. Loud cars, just very, I guess, very, what's the word? Uh,
It's a bit of a playground, I guess.
not very cultural like.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of crime. Yes. Yeah. I would love to change the Gold Coast back to its original roots and become the mayor when I'm 70 years of age and change
Yeah.
the world.
Well, it can happen. If you work toward it, it's one of those goals. It's not impossible. Someone else done it before you. So,
I think everyone, especially chefs, have got great ideas of what they,
well, it's part of your creativity.
yeah, yeah. One of my ideas, actually, while we're on the subject, is to build just this way as the ocean is to build the world's longest wooden jetty. I would like to see that.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
highly encourage you to do.
There's something about wooden jetties that I love. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's
all fun and games.
a weekend project. You can start working on this.
Exactly,
All right,
exactly.
Ryan.
You could have a
Uh,
little hotel at the. You could have a little hotel at the
yeah.
end of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway.
All right, Ryan. Before we finish the conversation, one last question. You get to go anywhere in the world. You get to eat somewhere, anywhere in the world, for like an hour, and you get to take someone with you, past or present. Where do you go, and who do you take with you?
Oh, it would have to be some beautiful izakaya in Japan right now for me. Somewhere really cozy, somewhere beautiful, preferably snowing so hard that you can't leave the restaurant. Oh, and I'll take my partner. She would hate me if I said anything else. So yeah, the
Yeah,
Japan izakaya, eating a lot of bits and pieces. That's what I would do.
yeah. Have you been to Japan?
Yes, yeah, love
Yeah.
Japan. Love Japan. Magnificent place. Not
All right.
only food wise, but the culture and the respect, the mannerisms. Yeah, fantastic place of the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ryan. Where
Thank you, Chris.
where can
Lovely
we
talking to you.
where can I send people to find you? Are you online? Are you on social network? Where
Oh,
can we find you if people want to reach
you
out to
know
you?
what? I go easy on me. I've just joined Instagram because a lot of my yachting friends said you can't make it in this industry unless you have Instagram. So
I agree. I agree. And this is a little message for everyone that wants to get onto a boat. As a chef nowadays, people want to see what you're capable of. It's not everything, but it's one of the steps. And if you can't show
100%.
anything, you don't have photos, it's going to be harder. And please use your own photos.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Uh, I believe it's Ryan A. Squires or Ryan Squires.
Yeah.
At
Anyway, don't worry about it,
Instagram.
Ryan. I'll put it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the show notes so people can just click and check out your profile.
Magnificent, Chris. Thank you very much for having me, mate.
Thanks, Ryan.